Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of
the
the
United
States
States
of America,
and
to
to
the
the
republic
which
which
stands
stands
one nation,
nation
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And we have Chaplain Dent, who will be doing the invocation tonight.
Good evening, man council. Let us pray. Our Father, Elohim, the possessor of heaven and earth, we ask your blessings upon our country, our people, mayor and council members who lead the community in which we live, work, and care. Help them as leaders not to be burdened, but to look to you for guidance in learning how to function in times like this. May they work together with our citizens to help the children, the elderly, the poor, those who are homeless, and those who are ill in body, mind, or spirit during this coronavirus pandemic. Lord, you are the ultimate healer. We pray for those infected with this virus, not only for their healing, but for them to be comforted while they heal. We pray blessings upon these caregivers. We also pray for their health, that they may not fall ill. Father, protect them with a hedge of protection against the germs of the COVID-19, and help those who are giving care to be protected as they nurse others back to health. Father, thank you for those who are at the forefront caring for, protecting, and serving our communities, even as they risk their health and safety for others. Please protect them from harm. Give them the courage and strength that they need. Draw close and let them feel your presence throughout the long hours they are working. Fully rain down the serenity that comes from the Prince of Peace. Remind us that you are still in control. We rest these petitions at the throne of the Almighty. Cover us with your wings. Be our refuge and our hiding place and shelter from the evils of this world. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
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 Thank you very much. Okay, item number 2 is additions, deletions, amendments, or changes to the agenda.
Madam Mayor, gentlemen, I have one item, and that is a recommendation for other business, the new item 6D. And that would be employee healthcare cost considerations for program year 2020-2021, based on direction offered during a workshop meeting dialogue on the subject.
I believe that, I think he's still here, but Mr. McDowell is still here. I thought we were supposed to be considering the diverging diamond interchange payment as well.
Correct. Yes, ma'am. So that would be the let's make that 6E.
6E, okay.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Is there a motion to accept the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second? Is there a second?
Thank you.
All right, Councilman Taylor has a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
I heard 3 ayes.
Aye.
Thank you.
I'm on mute. Sorry.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. All right, that is unanimous. The agenda is amended. All right, item 3A, approval of regular session minutes dated April 6th, 2020. And I believe that we got updated, the updated minutes this afternoon. Is that correct?
Yeah, Mayor, I don't know whether anyone else provided input, but I gave her some changes and she incorporated them in the update. If you want me to go through those changes that I'm okay with that she made, I will do that. I still have 2 in there that I don't think got changed the right way.
Okay, so why did everyone receive the it looks like it came in actually at 10:20 this morning, the updated minutes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So everyone's had an opportunity to see those changes. All right, so given that, Councilman Clay, if you would go ahead and just update the things that have not been updated from that 10:20 email.
Right, okay, Mayor, on packet page 14, now near the bottom of the page, D, the action. Councilman Clay moved to, it got changed from reconsider to consider, but we weren't really moving to consider, weren't we? We were moving to approve.
You're on page
And-
14, you said?
Packet page 14, item D, the action.
Wait, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the 10, the ones that were sent out this morning.
Oh,
Were
well,
sent out.
look, yeah, if you, and I'm reading off what was in the packet, but it's item D on page 9 of 24 of the minutes. That will probably find it for you.
Hold on one second here.
Look at 9 of 24 of the minutes. Line 401.
Line 401. Okay.
My note had been, it said to reconsider a request. And I said, why reconsider? There was nothing, I don't believe, to reconsider there, but it was really to approve it, I think.
Yes, I think it was a move to approve.
And I think what came out in the change version was reconsider got changed to consider. And it's not consider, it's just to approve.
Yes, it was to approve, as I recall as well.
Okay.
It looks like the word action has a 0 in it on line 401 as well.
Okay, I'll change that, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, and your second point?
My second one is on packet page 25, which is page 20 of 24, and it's line 900. And maybe I didn't speak distinctly, but I said into the pot, throwing something into the pot, like you're making a stew,
Oh,
as opposed to a pod that you would use to put your belongings in if you were moving.
Okay, sir.
that's I
Which
think that's
is-
line 8 and 96 of the amended ones, the amended minutes.
Yeah, I don't know what the number on the amended minutes is, but it's, I just don't have that in front of me.
Okay.
That's all I had, and I will move to approve with those changes.
I've got one question. When we looked at the it came up, it's really, when we looked at Jackson Myers came up for the program for the development of block grant. And my question is, there were 2 votes yes, there were 2 votes abstained, and then the mayor voted yes, and the motion was carried. If
Where
2
are you?
people
That was one of the corrections that I got fixed in there already.
okay,
And the mayor did not vote. There was no need for the mayor to vote.
but if 2 people abstain, does that pass? Because
If 2
2
people
people
vote in
abstain,
favor,
do
yes.
they have a,
Yeah,
Have a
abstain counts as a yes vote. It's
Yes, sir.
just that you don't support it effectively.
it does count, okay, because I
Yes, sir.
always thought it was a 0 vote, and if you only had 2 people that voted
No.
yes, 2 people abstained, then it did not pass, so that's correct. Thank you.
Now,
That was the
Mr.
only
Denmark
question I had
could
on
weigh
that.
in on that, but where is Mr. Denmark, by the way?
Right there, I see him.
Oh, there he is. I see him.
That would in fact pass, yes, sir.
You saying it passed or did not pass?
It did pass, yes, it did.
It passed.
So
Yes.
I'm
2,
sorry. Where?
There was no
Two-
need. There was no need for the mayor to vote. That's all I had her take
Well,
out.
you guys are saying different things. Councilman Allen is thinking it did not. The attorney is saying it did. Can you clarify, sir? That it did or did not?
No, it did pass. 2 yes, 2 abstains, that passes.
Okay, that was my question. Okay.
Can you point me to where we were in the most recent document? I'm just trying to. What line?
Oh,
Uh,
I was in. I don't have the most recent document here. I was just looking at my notes on the other.
Okay.
I can
All
get
right.
for you, Mayor. Just a second. Okay, Mayor, if you will go to the letter I before the 9A unfinished business.
What line?
On my document, it would be line 565.
565. Okay, thank you.
Sometimes it changes according to who does the font. I think y'all's font's smaller than mine that I use on my system. But originally it was
Okay.
Councilman Gay moved to approve a request from Interim Director of Recreation and Cultural Arts, Michelle Johnson,
Right.
to move with receiving grant funds from Fulton County Community Development Block Grant CDBG. Seconded by Councilman
with you.
Taylor. Councilman Gay voted yes, Councilman Taylor voted yes, Councilman Clay and Allen abstained. And then I put on there Mayor Mo
Motion carried.
voted yes, and motion carried.
Yeah, and I did not vote on that.
Yeah, that was on the original shell, and I took it out in the correction
Got it.
from
Okay.
Councilman Clay.
All right. Anything else in regard to the minutes?
Nope.
All right. Is there a motion to approve those regular session
So
minutes from
moved.
2020? All right. I heard a motion from Councilman Clay and a second from Councilman Allen. All those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. 3B is the workshop session minutes from April 6, 2020.
I move to approve as presented.
A second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. That was unanimous as well. All right. That passes. Thank you, gentlemen. All right. The next item is
Shredded day.
proclamations. There's no proclamations, resolutions, plaques, or announcements. So we move to remarks of citizens. Ms. Moore?
Yes, we have one citizen remark. Let me just get my stopwatch ready. Okay. This is from Jamil McKenzie. She did not put her address, and it states, "Good afternoon. I would like to have this community event announced at the city council meeting this evening. Ignite has partnered with United Healthcare and physicians residing in College Park to inform our citizens about health resources available to them and safety updates pertaining to COVID-19. The free 30-minute info session will take place on Zoom and Facebook Live on Monday, April 27th, 2020 at 3 p.m. Thank you, Jamil McKenzie." And I can send you guys the flyer that she forwarded me as well.
Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. You got your stopwatch for that?
I gotta do it for everybody.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Item 6A, consideration of an action on a request to hold a City of College Park resident-only community shredded day on Saturday, May 16th, 2020, from 9 a.m. to 2:00 p.m. at the Public Works Maintenance Facility located at 2233 Harvard Avenue.
I move to approve that with the condition that the employees that help have protective equipment on, whatever is deemed necessary, and that we keep the people in the car, that they just drive up and they drop it off, they pop the trunk, or we pop the trunk and take out whatever is necessary to take out. And I
So
approve it.
can I shorten that a little bit? So you move to approve with appropriate personal protective equipment for workers and social distancing techniques?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
All right.
Very well said.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second, I have a question.
All right. Councilman Gay, I heard a second from you and you want discussion.
Yes.
All right. Go right ahead.
Mr. Mason, will this also be done at, next to Phillips Park
Yes,
with the
sir.
hazardous waste?
Yes, sir.
You don't have it on that.
We're
Yes,
talking
it's two-
shred it day. We're talking shred it day. That was only, you
Yeah.
only had that down for the Public Works.
So that's the 6B I'm talking about, huh?
You are talking about 6B. It looks like hazardous waste is happening in two,
Yeah,
Okay.
2 locations for hazardous waste.
but shredded is only
But-
at the location.
but we're
Shredded
on
day is
6.
only at Public Works facility. They can come to Public Works facility to do the drop off.
Okay.
All right.
Any other questions? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. That's unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. Item 6B is consideration of an action on a request from Director of Public Works Mike Mason for authorization to hold a household hazardous waste day drop-off event in conjunction with May Cleanup Month 2020. It'll be held on
Move to
Saturday.
approve with the same conditions.
Okay, all right. It's a one-day event that'll be held Saturday, May 16th from 9 to 2 at the Public Works Maintenance Facility and Jamestown Plaza parking lot. So it is the same Councilman Clay, with appropriate personal protective equipment and social distancing measures.
Correct.
All right, is there a second?
A second.
All right, Councilman Allen seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I heard all 4 of you. All right, that's unanimous. Thank you. Ms. Moore, anything to add on 6C, discussion update on recently adopted ordinances and resolutions?
I have nothing unless you guys have questions.
Okay, I don't hear any questions. So we will move to item 7A.
Naturally,
Is it-
down to 2 addition items, 60.
You are
Really helpful.
certainly correct, sir. Thank you very much. If it's not right in front of me, it's had to turn my head to the left for that.
Yes, ma'am, 2 additions.
Yes. So 6D is consideration of employee healthcare costs. I think I've mixed up the words
Right.
there a little bit, Mr. Moore. But this is something that we reviewed in the workshop session, and Councilman Clay, I believe that you had a motion.
Yes, I move to approve the option where we continue the same percentage split of the increase that we have now between employees and the city.
In that the increase will be borne 75% by the city and 25% by employees.
Correct.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, Councilman Allen. Any discussion?
I would just like to add, as a carryover for people that didn't attend the work session, that I made the comment in work session that we're all in a difficult time right now, and the city needs to keep its costs in line, as well as, of course, every employee, everyone is in this together. I don't really feel that we can afford to absorb all the cost of the increase, and that was supported by council.
Okay. All right, any other comment? All right, hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry, I heard 3. Okay, so that is unanimous? Are there any? Okay, all right. No abstentions? No one against? All right, that is unanimous. Thank you. Item 6E is consideration of payment for the city's agreed upon portion of the diverging diamond interchange at Camp Creek Parkway.
If I may,
Yes, you may. Go ahead, please go ahead.
I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Madam Mayor.
No, you're fine.
Thank you. So I would like to call everyone's attention to an email distribution I facilitated with Gerald McDowell and others this past Friday afternoon, April 17th, 3:12 p.m. Essentially, a request is being facilitated by the Aerotropolis Atlanta Community Improvement District's Executive Director, Gerald McDowell, regarding the request or consideration to expedite payment of expenses associated with the Divergent Diamond Interchange project. Going back about 2 years ago, in fact, early 2018, as I recall, Mayor and City Council did offer a commitment to sharing the costs associated with the aforementioned infrastructure improvements, whereby the City of College Park made a commitment of $314,103.80 for the life of the project being implemented. The authorization at that time was 4 equal payments of $78,525.95. Since then, only one payment has been made, leaving a balance of $235,577.85. Again, the commitment was for 4 equal installments. We have 3 additional installments to be made between now and the next year or two while the project is being implemented accordingly. The Office of the City Manager openly and publicly does not recommend the remaining balance to be paid in full of $235,577.85 for a couple of reasons. Number one, the current state of financial affairs, if you will. Number two, the fact that the project is being implemented in a phased fashion. And number three, this is a intergovernmental project being implemented via financial support from the City of East Point, the City of Atlanta, Fulton County, in addition to the City of College Park, Georgia. So for those reasons, there's not a compelling reason to recommend that commitment. I believe that we are in position to satisfy the remaining 3 payments of $78,000 and change, $78,525.95 via the implementation of the project, because we're relying on funding sources that are eligible for capital expenses alone. However, it is not fiscally prudent to expedite that entire package at this time. I have to be open and clear with my formal recommendation for the reasons noted. Likewise, at this time, Madam Mayor, council members, I yield.
I believe Mr. McDowell is on the line, so I want to give him an opportunity to speak if he is still here. I saw him earlier.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. When I came before Mayor and Council, the $314,000 was approved, but there was a condition placed on the full payment of getting an agreement from Union City and South Fulton to participate in another project located on Buffington Road. And so the reason for the 4 payments was to allow for that to take place. Since that approval of the $314,000, we were able to get agreements from the other 2 cities to participate financially in the Buffington Road project, along with College Park. It would be South Fulton and Union City, as well as the CIDs. The DDI project, based on the last projection that we've gotten from Georgia Department of Transportation, will be finishing up their work in May of 2020. So next month, they will be finishing up their work, and we anticipate receiving an invoice from GDOT after that for $1.5 million to make the full payment. Fulton County and East Point, as well as the CIDs, we've all made our full payments. So I was coming back to College Park to ask for your reconsideration to make your payment in full, since we satisfied the condition that was placed on making the full payment previously.
Any questions for Mr. McDowell?
I have a comment. Yeah, as Mr. McDowell states it correctly, there was a condition on there, and that condition was that we get participation on another project, and the Buffington Road project certainly is one that qualifies for that. And we basically gave our word that we would make that right, and that's why we went with the phase payment. So what city manager and Mr. McDowell said are correct. The question that I have, I realize we just made a vote on medical expenses, for example, because of the difficult financial situation. Mm-hmm. And so the issue before me right now is, we're going to make the payment. When is the Buffington Road project due, Mr. McDowell?
That project is scheduled for construction in 2020. It's either 2021 or 2022. That $40 million project is scheduled to start then.
So my question to you would be, what if East Point and South Fulton said, well, you know, things are tough times right now. We can't afford to do that project anymore. Are they, how committed are they? We had this discussion, you and I've had a discussion, and I'm inclined to take people at their word, and I'm inclined to live up to my word. Do we have anything that is going to enforce that with them? Have they, well, enforce it with them? That's the question, really.
Sure. There are three things I can offer you in response to that. Number one, even though construction starts in 2021 and 2022, payments from College Park, South Fulton, Union City, and the CIDs would not be due until around 2024 when they start the landscaping portion of that project. That's number one. Number two, as it stands in the current plan, the CID would pay the invoice, and then we would invoice our partners for reimbursement. So there would be no need for a payment up front until, number one, the work is completed, and number two, the CIDs have been invoiced and we make payment, and then we would submit an invoice to each partner for reimbursement, and that would all be done probably in around 2024 or 2025. And then finally, one thing that would be very helpful for us, I understand the circumstances that we're all under now with COVID-19. We anticipate receiving this invoice from Georgia Department of Transportation as soon as they finish the project in May. And if we could have payment number two, when that invoice comes, and then payment number three before the end of the year in 2020, we could wait for the fourth payment in the first quarter of 2021. That would give you some breathing room, and rather than making one lump sum of 235, if we could have a new schedule of receiving payment two before June 30th, and then payment number three before December 31st, and then payment number four before the end of March 21, that would allow us to make full payment and not have to overextend ourselves.
City manager.
If I may, Madam Mayor.
You may.
Given the previous authorization by Mayor and City Council to offer its support of this project financially as noted, as well as the commentary just provided by Mr. Gerald McDowell relative to a payment schedule, I would like to have the opportunity to work with him administratively so that we can manage appropriate cash flow. My principal concern was all of the money up front. I think that's a no-no right now. So Mr. McDowell, your most recent comments just a moment ago are very helpful. I believe we can work out details to that effect. So Mayor and City Council, I would like to have the opportunity via consensus to work with Mr. McDowell as noted between now and to the early part of 2021. I believe that can actually work in terms of financial management.
I have
Wait,
a
I'm sorry.
question.
You want to work with him between now and the early part of 2021?
Yes, ma'am, if I may. So he talked about the idea of the second payment being facilitated by June 30th, the third payment sometime after the new fiscal year, and the final payment thereafter. Along those lines, ma'am, I believe we can facilitate that with the completion of the project, the invoicing with the Georgia Department of Transportation. There will be some delays with the invoicing from the Georgia Department of Transportation, given the current state of affairs, but both my office, Director of Finance and Accounting, and others involved in this project, I believe we can work fairly well with Mr. McDowell along those lines. And that's what I mean by the end of the year.
Let me make a suggestion. So we can move forward on this and get it approved rather than deferring it kind of thing.
Right.
What if we said the first part of Mr. McDowell's proposal, we get it, the first payment in by June, whatever the date was, and the second payment, the end of the year. Will we have our taxes? How much in the way of taxes will we have in by the end of the year, City Manager?
By the end of the calendar year or the end of the fiscal year?
Calendar year.
Calendar year.
I think he was referring to calendar year, were you not, Gerald?
He was.
That's correct. December 31st, 2020.
Yeah,
So the bulk of the taxes are actually achieved by the early part of the new calendar year. So between January and March, for example, by March of 2020, we had about 93 to 95% of outcomes achieved in that regard.
what do you have by the end of the year, though?
By the end of the year, probably 50%.
Okay, so I'm going to make a suggestion. We say the 30th of June, and we say December 31, and we say the end of next year or sooner if you work out with Mr. McDowell that we can afford to pay it sooner.
I think I can work that out, ma'am, sir.
So
If I make that a motion, can we go forward on that?
let's sort of, I want to make sure that that the motion is clear about what we're paying when. And of course my Outlook did not respond. It's freezing on me, unfortunately. I was looking for the exact number. It's what, 78,000?
500.
$525.95. 78,525.95.
Okay, so Councilman Clay, would your motion be to for the city to make a payment to the Aerotropolis CIDs for the diverging diamond interchange on the amount of $78,525.95, no later than June 30th, 2020?
Correct.
And then the second payment coming no later than December 31st, 2020?
Correct.
That will be the third payment.
Well,
I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah, it's of the remaining three payments, it's first and
Right.
seconds, but of a total, it's second and third. Correct.
Right. Second, so third payment coming no later than December 31st, and the final payment coming no later than December 31st, 2021.
Correct.
Okay.
And if
also-
if we can get it sooner, great. But that's what we'll promise.
All right. Everybody clear on that motion?
Yes.
All right.
Second.
Someone seconded. I didn't hear who it was. I'm sorry. Who was that second?
Second, Councilman
you.
Gay.
Thank you, Councilman Gay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, that's unanimous.
I've got one quick question for Mr. McDowell.
Yes, sir.
How firm do you think that May date is that they'll be finished with the diamond?
If you had asked me that yesterday, I would have said they would probably beat that date. But we found an issue today that may delay it, but we don't know how long it's going to delay it. On the second wall that was constructed, we found a crack from top to bottom, and they are going to be assessing that this week to determine how to repair it. But they were ahead of schedule, and we felt like that they would probably be done within the next 2 weeks. So depending on what that assessment yields out, they were probably done in the next 2 to 3 weeks. But if that crack should cause additional delay, I don't know how much longer that would take. But they are essentially done with the project for the most part.
Good. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. McDowell.
Thank you, Mr. McDowell.
Oh, thank you all. We're all partners working in this together, and I wanted to be able to present something to you that would work for both of us.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I don't think I can go back to the printed agenda, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So item 7A, public hearing to consider an annexation of property located at 5391 West Fayetteville Road from unincorporated Clayton County to the city of College Park. The Planning Commission recommended approval of the annexation at their February 24th, 2020 meeting. If you are here in regard to the public hearing, or if you wish to speak as to this public hearing, that can only be done via Zoom. So the link to be able to do that is, Ms. Moore, am I correct that it is correct on the College Park website?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so if you go, Ms. Moore, can you walk people through if they wish to speak on this particular issue, where they will find it?
you would go to www.collegeparkga.com, click on government, then go down to council meetings. Then on your left-hand side, you would click where it says council agenda and open up the agenda for 4/20/2020. And it has the instructions there on how to make a public comment. Just click on the link and it'll take you directly to us, and raise your hand once you're in the meeting, and then you will be acknowledged. Please turn on your mic so you can be heard. If we cannot hear you, you can leave a chat comment. But those are the instructions.
Great, thank you so much. And the chat function is down at the bottom of the screen. There's a little comment box that says chat, and you'll be able to add your comment in the chat box if there is an issue with your microphone. So let's see, I think this was something that we discussed last time as well. And Ms. Alexander, can you give us a little bit of context as to where we are?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
I can. I think someone might have both either like 2 devices on right now, or if they could mute their social media, because we're getting a little bit of feedback on someone's microphone.
Mhm. Yeah, that was great. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Yes, so 7A and 7B actually contain the same subject property. This is 5391 West Fayetteville Road. We had public hearings on both the annexation request of these 43.62 acres from Clayton County to be incorporated into the city of College Park. And we also had a public hearing on the rezoning, which was a request for our PDR, which is a mixed use type of zoning district. This evening, we have the public hearing only about the annexation. And I have to first announce to you that the applicant has requested a deferral. They've asked for a deferral for probably 60 days. If you are willing to consider that, staff absolutely supports that. We've had discussions with the Board of Education from Clayton County, and also we have received comment from the commissioners, from the Board of Commissioners of Clayton County. So the request is for a deferral. However, we still have to conduct the public hearing on the annexation. Item 7B, of course, would depend on your decision on the deferral and also on the annexation, which is the decision only regarding the zoning district. But to refresh everyone's memory, or to review it for newcomers listening, this is a property that is located on West Fayetteville Road. The applicant originally came in and asked for over 500 dwelling units for a multifamily standalone project. The city planner's office had asked them to come back for a mixed use project, and preferably mixed income would be more appropriate for our policy desires and for what the comprehensive plan shows for this area. The applicant has come back with a proposal that you have in your packets. They also include some elevations that are examples of the type of design and quality of their product. They are proposing, they have reduced the number of units to 410 multifamily with a range of income ranges. And they also added 15 single family units to the proposal, along with an out parcel of 15,000 square feet commercial. They will have a minimum of 4,000 square feet of additional commercial space. They're proposing to deliver this over 2 phases. We had spoken, since we last had the public hearing, we spoke with the Board of Education about the impacts on the schools. And I'm prepared to answer any of the questions regarding that. The applicant is online, I believe, Josh Marks, representing Prestwick Development. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Alexander. At this time, I will go ahead and declare the public hearing open. And it looks like Ms. Hall Garrison has a comment to add. Is that correct, Ms. Hall Garrison?
Yes, it is.
Good evening.
Good evening, and good evening, Mayor, Council. I just wanted to state that from the realm of economic development, I am in support of the development as far as not only does it provide us additional residential potential with an area that we are in need of being able to redevelop or really remarket. Also, the developer has included an additional commercial space within their development, which I have already been helping to market and kind of helping to provide more information on that area and opportunity as far as for the local site selectors. So as of right now, I just wanted to voice in support of the annexation. Not only has this developer been interested, but for the past about 2-3 years, we have had additional interest in this property. And I do foresee if this were to not be accepted, that there would still be interest in the annexation of that property into College Park.
All right, thank you, Ms. Hall Garrison. It looks like amongst the attendees, Mr. John Duke has a comment.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, great. I don't know how many people are here to comment. I hope there's several. First of all, I think that with a city of 14,000 people, there should always be citizens at a public hearing. I think it's important, but no matter how the outcome. And I think it's a back and forth debate. It's not, just for everyone to know, it's not like a citizen's comment. We actually should be able to get answers when we ask questions in a public hearing. But I'm speaking because I want to know, why would we annex this property? During the last campaign, last November, almost every mayoral candidate opposed any annexation from into the city such as this. But and you say, well, why would you oppose? Well, the reason that I don't think we need to be annexing property is number one, I'm just not sure that's a good development. I mean, without getting way into the weeds, but we already have a poverty rate that's 3 times the national average. We're already doing our part, and we're not even solving that problem. I just feel like we need to just deal with our own issues that we have right now, and the land we have, and the things that are on our plate. We've got enough on our plate. I don't see how this annexation benefits the city of College Park. Another reason too is speaking of not even handling the problems we have. In the 21 years I've lived here, I have slowly watched the degradation of some city services, and I'm not being critical. I'm not here to throw arrows at anyone. I'm saying that, but it's the truth. I know for a fact that, I have to call Public Works if I ever want anything picked up on the streets now. It never used to happen. It won't get picked up if I don't call Public Works. So we're not even providing the services that we used to have, and so we're going to add more. We're going to add more to our plate. So that's that's my opinion on it. But the other thing that's a little bit disturbing in this is it doesn't seem right to have a public hearing on rezoning right after the hearing on annexation. It's kind of assuming, maybe I'm wrong. It seems like, well, you're just assuming you're going to annex it. But it seems that there should be an annexation public hearing, and then there should be a rezoning public hearing created for a later date after that decision has been made. That to me seems the most fairest way to go about it, so that no one is biased in their decision on the council and mayor on the mayor and council. So anyway, could anyone speak, since, you know, like I said, this is not like citizens' comments. I think council and mayors should be able to respond to what we're saying, what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
I mean, can anyone on mayor and council, you know, give a reasoning why you would want to, you know, annex this property?
I have some thoughts about it, and I'm happy to share them. I've actually sort of prepared some remarks regarding
Okay. Well, that's fine. You can discuss it among yourselves later. But anyway, that's my decision. I mean, that's my opinion. I'll step down and I'll step away.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
It looks like Ms. Kathleen McQueen has a comment. Ms. McQueen, can you hear us?
Unmute. Can you hear me?
Yes, unmute. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So just to state my position, I'm for the annexation. In off West Fayetteville, that is an opportune property to not only tie in Phoenix Boulevard, those office complex employees, as well as airport. And Presswick Group puts out a very good product. And I'm reading off of the packet. It appears to me that they are going to have some tax credits. So they're in it for the long haul. And that's what we need for the city. Investors that are willing to reinvest in our community, and also the fact that they are adding the townhome community to add to that. That is a huge factor that builds the wealth numbers higher, because I believe the presenter the last time stated it's starting at the mid 200s. So you are going to increase your demographics in terms of your citizens that are going to be on the higher, approaching the higher wealth over lower income. So again, I hope that you all look at it from the long term vision of what you all have said that the city of College Park needs. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wish to speak?
Mayor?
Yes. Mr. Jones, you're raising your actual physical hands.
Yes, for physical hands.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm in favor of the annexation. For some time now, especially on the south side of College Park, you know, there has been a lack of investment. And I'm not talking about during the last 5 or 10 years, but, you know, over 30 or so years, almost 40 years. College Park has been cannibalized for some time now by the airport acquiring property. A lot of our, you know, residents have moved away. And a lot of that property that was once acquired by the airport can no longer be built, or it cannot no longer be developed as residential housing. So how can we actually get more residents here within the city of College Park to live here, play here, and to work here? We have over 65,000 jobs available within the city of College Park, yet we only have 15,000 people that live here. And at the end of the day, I would say those 60,000 people that actually work here, I would say that probably 97% of them actually leave the city of College Park. They don't live here. What we're doing right now is we are trying to annex more property so that we would be able to develop some clean, decent housing on the south side of College Park, along with that commercial development that Tasha talked about earlier. What we're trying to do is not, we should not close the door stating that, oh, because my trash didn't get picked up, or that someone didn't pick up branches, that we shouldn't let anybody come into the city of College Park. We should have an open door. We should make sure that the development is the highest development that it can be, that it's high quality, that it's not going to be something that where somebody's going to invest in it and they're going to flip the property in 3 to 5 years. I think Ms. Kathleen McQueen spoke on its tax credits. So they're going to own this property for the long haul. We also need to look at the people that actually work at the airport. A lot of the people that work at the airport, they are having 45-minute to an hour commutes outside of the community to live. I'm quite sure they would much rather work and live in this community. The more people of mixed income that we have living within our community, the better it's going to be for everyone over a period of time. Whenever you have concentrations of low income in pockets or just straight public housing, it's been seen, it's been experienced that you're going to have issues and you're going to have problems. But I believe with this particular development, that would be one step. That would be one step in the right direction for the city of College Park. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. If you have joined the call and you wish to comment during this public hearing, there is a raise hand button. And if you wish to do so, please go ahead and, okay, we've got a hand raised. And that is Mr. Marks. Hello, Mr. Marks.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I do appreciate those comments from Mr. Jones and Mrs. McQueen and I think it was Mrs. Moore. I did just want to clarify a couple of items. There's a lot of misperception around what workforce housing is, and that really would be what we'd be bringing to the community. As Mr. Jones mentioned, the majority of jobs at the airport would fit within the income ranges of residents that we'd be serving. So as discussed and mentioned last time, the income ranges here would be between 30 to 65,000. I mean, I can't imagine a single mom with, 2 children who's working in a great job, maybe as a teacher. You saying that she doesn't make enough to live in a quality development, it's baffling to me. And that's the perception that some people have. I think it's a lot of the misunderstanding about what product we're actually providing here. You all said that you don't need any more people moving into the community at the poverty level. The poverty level in Georgia is $18,000. The development that we would be bringing to the table would not actually be bringing in folks who are earning at that wage range. But a larger global item is, I think sometimes I would put our product and what we develop up against any other developer. But it is disconcerting when people aren't concerned about what a property looks like or the value it can bring to a community based on the way it looks and its attractiveness. But people are concerned about who's actually able to move in and if they're willing to make enough to be a quality resident in our community. And the fact is, even if that is your understanding, the residents that we're serving, that we would be serving, are high quality residents who have to meet credit and criminal background checks and who are making a very, very decent living. So thank you for your time. I appreciate everybody's comments and concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Marks. Mr. Duke?
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we sure can.
Oh, thanks for calling me again. I just it's not that we're saying block people out. That's not the point I was making at all. we're just not handling everything that we have on our plate. That it's not about pushing people out. The thing is too, I'd like to ask Mr. Marks, where does he live? I mean, could he answer that question? You know, where do you live? I bet you, most likely Josh Marks lives on the north side of Atlanta. That's probably where he lives. But, you know, and he doesn't even understand what we have, what truly is our challenges living in College Park. He probably has no idea, no clue. And I don't really know. Artie Jones, to me, is an unfair person to be speaking, because
I would ask that we kind of keep it about the project and not
right. But that's what I mean. The project is but they're saying that you know, we're making a statement that we don't want any people in. I'm just rebuttaling their comment. The other this is because it's the point, but the other thing is, you know, like I said, you know, Artie Jones is the economic development director for the city. So, I mean, you know, what's you know, his viewpoint is just going to be different. But you know, again, where does the other thing that I was trying to get in my head is that the West Fayetteville Road, that area, the project there, you don't know what that's an industrial, that's a commercial area. Most likely that part of town and that those kind developed there could be, you don't know where they're going to head. You don't know if they're going to increase in value. They could even go down in value, because that south kind of end of area is sort of cut off. So anyway, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Duke.
Thanks.
Ms. McQueen?
Thank you, just for the ad. And thank you, Mr. Marks, for stating that workforce housing, because I'm a real estate and I work with commercial developers that are building workforce housing. And to Mr. Duke, that property of land is prime because there are qualifiers in order to build on that property. It has to be in proximity of schools. It has to be in proximity of grocery stores. It needs to have the access so that it has that work-life balance. So that corner, which I've driven, I know that area intimately, and that is a prime area for this type of development. When you're talking about you want to bridge the gap between the south side of the city to the north side of the city, you're creating more business opportunities where that may draw individuals from the north side to the south side and the reverse. So we need to start looking at it as a holistic approach in where are the places where we can build up and draw in more residents, as Mr. Artie Jones has stated. If this is an area that we can bring more residents, why not? This is what we want. We want our city to grow. And if you have more citizens, you have a tax base. As far as our city facility management, I think that there are times we are in a city of trees. So of course it's going to be a little more backlog. We can't use that as an argument that we don't have good city services. That's all I had to say, but thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Going once, going twice. All right. I have kept returning to the idea of building the community we deserve. Part of that is considering housing solutions for valuable members of our city who allow us to function on a daily basis. And as the old adage goes, you're either part of the problem or part of the solution. And right now, we're part of the problem, because at the same time that between 60 and 75% of our city employees are in the same income range that this development is targeting, we're saying as a body and as some elected officials out there that we don't want to form a partnership to ease their housing stress. And as a point of reference, the executive assistant to mayor and council would fall squarely within the income range for a project such as this. So if we're not paying people more, given the current economic climate, we have to understand what this says to the decent, hardworking people in this city and the surrounding areas when we pay lip service to housing affordability on one side of our mouths, then say not in my backyard on the other. We cannot tout College Park as a place that is welcoming to all sectors of the community when we do nothing as policymakers to actually make that happen. We can say all we want that this isn't the right project or something else different will come along, but as we stare at the brink of a recession, these opportunities may be fewer and farther in between. And in the meantime, our employees wait. Airport workers wait. Teachers and nurses wait. Police officers and firefighters wait. They wait for those housing solutions that are going to incorporate them and not just people who can afford homes starting at $500,000. And at the same time, I understand that we have some deplorable multifamily housing stock in this city. And we've got to be diligent as a body to ensure those conditions are either corrected or those residences are shut down. And it's one of my goals, and I know it's the goal of some of my colleagues, to ensure that each and every one of our citizens in this city is living in safe, stable housing. And this project can provide that for over 400 families right next to North Clayton Middle School. It's a school that currently has a 37.7% student mobility rate. What that means is that over a third of the students who start the school year there don't finish it there. And stability matters. Consistency matters. Being part of a working middle-class family does not mean children shouldn't learn. It doesn't mean that the families in that income bracket are not as worthy. It means more often than not that they're spending a disproportionate amount of their time worrying about making ends meet. And we can, from a public policy perspective, help alleviate some of that concern. This complex, as Mr. Marks noted, will subject all of its residents to a background and criminal check. They'll be providing on-site school support and programs. They've also offered to donate part of the land to the school board for environmental. And because of the funding model they're using, they have to be involved for 30 years with the project. They're responsible for those capital improvements and maintenance of the property, and they cannot sell it. This is mixed income workforce housing, with units being available from 50 to 80% of the area median income, and townhomes are going to be for sale at market rates. Retail will also be an important component. The long-term plan for this land is mixed use, exactly what this project entails. Let's take the time during this deferral, if approved, to actually learn more about Prestwick's plans for this site. Let's tour their other properties and see a rendering of a proposed product at this location, and do the homework so we don't dismiss out of hand what may be one of the better opportunities this city has seen in a while to make housing affordability more than lip service. We must have institutional courage as a body to not only talk the talk, but walk the walk. Our citizens deserve that, and I employ my colleagues to join me and fulfill our promises to our constituents, no matter their socioeconomic status in the community. This project deserves our full consideration on its merits. Anybody else have anything to add?
I'd just like to add, I thought, Mark, I think you've done a great job. I have a couple of questions. You said you're not taking any tax incentives at all.
Good evening, Councilman Allen. Yes, I would like to make one clarification. up for the loss of tax revenue that they would earn. They've seen that in several different developments in Clayton County, but there is no partnership which would allow for a tax abatement on this property. Not only would all of the residents and families who are living at the property be paying taxes to go to schools, any resident any single unit or single bedroom unit, which there would be many on this property, all of those residents would be paying rent, and then out of that we would have to pay taxes on their portion. So a large percentage of this property won't have any kids, but because of the new housing stock, we would have a greater burden of school taxes than what would be either at a single family home that has a couple of children in the house.
Okay, good. Other question I had, and maybe Artie can answer this better than anybody. We will get the electrical and the power. We'll get the power and the sewer and the water for all of these.
Well, I believe that we'll get the water and we will get the sewer, but I do not think we'll get the power because this particular area is in Georgia Power's. This is not a customer choice property. And Hugh can chime in on this, but I believe that this particular area is outside of the City of College Park's authority to be able to provide power in this area.
I will chime in. If there is a way for us to use College Park Power, we would be happy to use College Park Power if you have the authority to service this site.
But I can get more information before the next meeting to let you know for sure what we can and cannot do, Councilman.
Yeah, I didn't know if we had the capacity down there to do that. So that was where I was going with that. So,
Mr. Allen, or Councilman Allen, I did talk with the Clayton County Water and Sewer System, and I can try to get something in writing, but they were confident that they have a very large water capacity down there, so they did not have any concerns about water and sewer in this location.
No, I'm not worried. I'm just worried about us, getting the money for all of that. Okay. And the 5 acres of land, I've seen where the 5 acres of land that you were looking at for the school, which I think is great for a trail and for people to walk around the apartments and everything else. That's good usable land, right?
It would be. It depends on the type of use that they want to put on there, but there's no sort of wetland or floodplain or anything like that at all. It just didn't make. We could access part of it, but if there was a way to work with the school system, we would love to be able to do that.
I'd love to see a little trail and walking things for the kids to get into and everything else. So again, that's where I was going with that. So thank you again for your time that you've put in on this. I appreciate it very much.
Absolutely.
I have a comment for Michelle Alexandra. The mayor and council voted that no new development can apply for a tax credit. Can that be put in their development agreement? Because they changed that on us with that recent annex property that we just did, the warehouse. It was the exact same conversation, but after it was passed, they went and got a tax abatement.
Credits and abatements are two different things.
Well, Mayor, I'm not speaking of tax credits. I'm saying, can we put in the development agreement that should this motion pass, they cannot apply for tax
abatement?
Actually, I'm going to have to defer to legal on what kind of condition is allowable. If this is something related to contracts, I don't know if we can impose that. However, I understand if the applicant's willing to accept that, that may be an option. Winston?
Well, it's just that I thought while I was on council, I thought I heard us say after the Dukes Weeks got the tax abatement from Fulton County Development Authority, that no other developers could apply for any other tax abatement. Did we not pass that? Somebody help me out who was on council.
Can I chime in on that? The reason that we could have actually we could have had Duke Weeks to actually sign up and do something like that because we were actually selling them property, and we put that particular clause in their contract. I mean, we could have done that, but we did not do that. That's why they got by. Again, this is probably for Winston. Winston can let us know if
Well,
we can
let me answer the next question. He just said they're not going to apply. So where's the issue of putting it in writing? He just said they're not going to apply.
Sure, so we can ask the applicant, sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I was just going to say if the applicant is willing and we agree, I mean, if all the parties agree, then
yeah,
we can memorialize that.
Yeah.
And just following up, the only way, from my understanding, to receive a tax abatement within the city of College Park would be to be either granted one because of where our location in Clayton County. We cannot work with the Fulton County Development Authority. It would be either through a partnership with the Clayton or with the College Park Housing Authority or the Development Authority of College Park. And so it's up to those bodies to, not that we would be going that route, but those bodies would be reliant on them to pass anything like that.
But you just said as part of your argument that you're not going to ask for any tax abatements.
Correct. We're not going to. If you want to put that in writing, that's fine.
Thank you. Put it in writing in the development agreement.
Yeah, and Councilman Gay, you're absolutely right. That is exactly what we've said, that we're not going to be doing developments that have abatements in them. And it should be in the contract, and it's intended to go through, Artie is aware of this, and it's intended to go through even if the property is sold. So yeah, that definitely should be in that. I totally agree with that. I had some other things that I wanted to mention, Mayor, if I may.
All right.
First off, I like the project. I like the appearance. I have not visited the other sites that you mentioned. I'd like to do that. But I like the project. I like the concept. But we've heard from a lot of developers. I've heard from a lot of developers, and sometimes they're just overly optimistic. Mostly they're overly optimistic, and sometimes they're just, frankly, just being deceitful. So I'm always suspicious. So one question I have is, you say you'll be with the project for 30 years, and you are entering into agreements of credits that will allow you, or that ask you or require you or whatever to be in that. So my question is for you, but also particularly for the city attorney, is how is that enforced? Okay, we agree, you agree that you're not going to leave us for 30 years. You're not going to flip the property to someone else that we have to deal with that may not have your intent. So how do we enforce that? Winston or you, anyone that can give me that answer?
Well, what I would say, Councilman, is that the 30 years that they're going to hold, that's not a City of College Park requirement, as I understand it. That's based on the what their relationship with either the state of Georgia or the federal government in terms of the tax credits that they're receiving. So that would be the basis of their 30-year commitment. Is that right, Mr. Morris?
Correct. So we can get as in the weeds as anybody would like to, but the very, very transparent answer is when we sign up for these credits, the property will remain affordable for 30 years. Legally, will remain affordable for 30 years. Our obligation to that property is for the first 15 years during the compliance period. So if at any time during those first 15 years, there is non-compliance, or if we're not doing our job of keeping up the property, the federal government can step in at any point, and the state government can step in at any point and take back their incentives. And what's called a recapture, to where we would then be sued by our investors, and essentially it would bankrupt our company. So we have an obligation within those first 15 years to maintain that property. Now, the second 15 years is a different phase, but in order to meet our obligation to keep it affordable, you have the pragmatic and realistic way to manage that property is by essentially signing up for a new allocation of credits. So that would be either by our company or a nonprofit that we would work with. And so our company's legal obligation is to 15 years to the property. The property itself is required to remain affordable for 30 years.
Okay, but basically where I'm going is, what bad thing would happen to you if in 20 years you decide to not maintain the on-site management that you've committed to, et cetera, et cetera? And I'm not saying that you're being deceitful. I'm simply saying hard times. We're going through hard times right now. So the question is, bad things happen. Companies go bankrupt. What would enforce that?
Right. That's a good question. For us, the reality that, like I would say before, is that in order to maintain the capital improvements and deferred maintenance items, we would sign up for a new allocation at around year 15, which would then reset the clock and start 15 years. Say there's a world, maybe our company, something terrible happens in year 20 and we're in the extended use period and there's not there's a deferred maintenance issue on the property. It's likely that there would still be a use restriction on the property. So you couldn't get somebody to come in and, jack up rents as high as they could possibly go. So it's likely that the state would work with a nonprofit to come in and provide needs and repairs for the property, and or sign up for a new allocation of credits. It's a good question.
Well, I would like Winston or Mr. Denmark to do everything contractually possible to ensure that commitment is enforced.
We could do something along the lines of liquidated damages, something like that. But it would be the subject of negotiations. But I can certainly set myself to that task.
Well, the reason I ask, and I'm not trying to be hard-nosed, but the situation, to all the points that were made by other people during the public hearing, for example, we don't want that area to decline. We want it to improve. I love your project. I love the concept, but the problem I have is I don't want to be misled, not necessarily through your intent. So I have a couple other questions. Have you seen the packet information that has been prepared for us, Josh?
I think that I probably have. I'm not sure exactly which one you're looking at, if it's been updated since the last meeting, but I've read the staff report.
Okay, I have a question for both Michelle then, and well, primarily for Michelle and possibly you, if you can answer it. Yeah, I looked at the numbers, the financial numbers in the packet. And basically, as I recall, after year one, if you compare the revenue versus the expense of providing services, the city will incur a net loss of about $500,000 a year, per year after the first year. The first year, it's a wash. It's 1.2 million, and it works out with the initial revenue that comes in when the project's being built. It washes out around a little over $1 million. After that, though, the costs continue of providing services, and yet the revenue is significantly less, around 700,000. So we incur a net loss of 500,000. Now I know that Michelle was using, I don't know, industry tables or averages or what have you.
Yeah.
That would be my guess. So my question is, and this is where you come in, Josh, are the tables that she used, to your knowledge, viable? So I first I want to look at it from an economic standpoint. I already like it from a beneficial standpoint to our citizens or to the citizens that would live there. But from an economic, I want to know how much is it going to cost the city to give that benefit to our citizens?
Yeah, if I may, Josh and listeners, the councilman's referring to a fiscal impact report that relied upon averages of a certain set of services that we provide based on the year 2018, the actual costs. And it just divvies it up evenly. It just distributes it evenly across just pure population numbers. So it's a per capita cost. And right out of the gate, that tells you the number washes any variation. So that says whatever age, it ignores any age or any services or particular additional needs that a certain individual might require. So that's a caveat on the cost side. And then on the revenue side, it only captures those, an estimated amount of revenues based on anticipated property taxes based on a certain amount of investment. And the limitation on that is there's a difference between fiscal impact, which is what we presented in the report, and the overall economic impact. And by that, I mean what we can't give you straight numbers without a lot of elaborate study, but the impact economically that we added also has to do with the retail sales per capita that are averages, retail sales that these units would be generating, as well as the market signals related to investment in that area and the spin-off of subsequent multiplier effect of having any investment in that area. So I just wanted to, I know that's a lot, but I just wanted to distinguish between a fiscal impact of what we could measure a little bit for you versus an economic impact more broadly. And with that, I'll turn it back to Josh, because I think he does have some comment about the limitations of the numbers we prepared.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Alexander. To follow up, I do think that the staff, Ms. Alexander and Ms. Washington, did a great job of presenting to the best of their ability a fiscal impact study. I think there are limitations to the study that they provided. The first is that it's 100% variable cost analysis, which means that as your so if you have 10,000 College Park residents, I know there are more, but if you have 10,000 College Park residents and you have one more person added, then that person, based on their analysis, increases all of the costs 0.001% or whatever that factor would be. So it doesn't assume that there are any fixed costs at all for the city of College Park. I think there's a very good argument to be made that as you increase residents into a community, you get some sort of economies of scale where you're able to spread out the costs of the overhead of the city across people. I know that that's tricky to do, and that's something Ms. Alexander and I went back and forth about a little bit, and probably requires a decent bit of money. What I will also say is that this study also assumed 100% new residents in the city of College Park. From my understanding and referring back to Ms. Mayer's previous comments, there is a lot of housing stock within the city of College Park that is subpar. What I think will happen, my prediction is if we were approved, you would see a decent bit of the folks who are currently living in some properties that are not well maintained, being charged extraordinary amounts of rent move over into our property into a really great unit and pay way less in rent, which means that there wouldn't be a new resident being added to College Park, and the costs would therefore not be any different for the city. What I also think, just to follow up on that, as owners of these other developments lose occupancy and increase vacancy, it will require them, in order to increase investment on their properties as they lose occupancy. And so there could be a trickle down effect to other properties to actually see their housing stock increase. And just the last comment following on Ms. Alexander said, we also assumed very conservative estimates on what this property would be paying in taxes. If we got a credit tenant to be at the out parcel, whether it was a CVS or Walgreens or something larger like a grocery store, I know that economic development has reached out to me about potential grocer interests. If any of those investments were to come to the city, the tax roll would see a massive boost on property taxes and then also on ongoing sales taxes for the property. So we really just tried to stay as conservative as possible in our underwriting and what we shared to the city so that we wouldn't overstate what could be expected. And to follow, just the last thing is that we, like Ms. Alexander said, we echo that as residents move into the community, we'll see a lot of their spending go back into the community.
Okay, well, thank you. Good, very good answer. Michelle, the money that we will be losing if Clayton County provides water, sewer services, and Georgia Power provides power, how does that factor into the revenue side of the analysis that I just talked about?
Councilman Clay, allow me to interject for a moment because Mr. Richardson is on the line and I believe he's been unmuted and he can give us a little bit more insight into the power issue.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, in my opinion, that is our territory. I know Georgia Power does serve the schools, but I think it was a customer choice issue. And this came up, I think, a couple of years ago about another subdivision going there, and we all agreed that was ours. So that's part of the consideration. We will serve that subdivision.
Okay, that's good news. Chances are we wouldn't serve them for water and sewer, presumably. That's not a question for you, but Clayton is already serving that area, and Clayton has a very well established, as someone said earlier. In fact, we get some of our water from Clayton County that we resell. So, okay, well, let me just check my notes here.
Do we have enough capability to handle all of those apartments, or are we all right with that?
Oh yeah, we're good.
Yeah, we got plenty of power.
We got plenty of power.
Well, as I say, I like the development. My last question is purely technical, and that is, if we approve tonight to annex this land, then we've got it, right? It's in the city of College Park. What happens if Josh comes back in 2 months or sooner and says, hey, given the current crises, I can't get my financing, I can't get what I need, and now the project is gone, but we've now have added the land. How does that impact, maybe the question is for city manager even, how does that impact us from a city standpoint? Are we glad we annexed the land even if we don't have a project for it?
Considerations and the opportunity to manage and control the growth of a particular area, I think that would be appropriate. That would be productive. So in the event that this does not happen, there will be an opportunity to manage growth dynamics within a particular area, and therefore that would be worthy as well.
So is a motion appropriate, Ms. Mayor?
Well, there is one question from, I actually haven't declared the public hearing closed. So Mr. Duke said, why can't the project be built without the property being annexed? I believe Mr. Marks should probably be able to answer that question.
Mr. Duke, the current zoning in Clayton County is office and industrial or office institutional. So if we were to go that route, we would need to work with the county in order to rezone in Clayton County, as has been discussed by many people on the council and staff. And Clayton County has also made it aware that they would not be a fan of this type of development. Is not news to anybody. So if there was a mixed use development at this location, it would need to occur within the city of College Park.
Okay.
I have a question. I'm sorry, before you make a motion.
No, I wasn't going to make a motion. Councilman Gay, I will let you speak at any point, but let me go ahead and declare the public hearing closed.
Okay.
Just to, making sure that no one else has anything to add in terms of public hearing.
I'm sorry, I thought the public hearing was closed.
I never said it. So it's
I
officially.
I would request at just we are working with the current owner on the property, and without discussing with them, I would request, and you don't have to respect it or not, but I would request that that you please don't annex the property, but then decide to not vote on the rezoning. That's just my request.
I'm sorry, you're saying you don't want us to annex the property tonight?
I'm saying that if you decided to vote on the annexation, I would also request that you would vote on the rezoning.
On the zoning change as well.
Oh, okay, do both.
Either defer the whole thing or vote on the whole thing. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay.
I have a question and a comment.
Yes, sir, Councilman Gay.
First of all, Councilman Clay, I'm very impressed how you brought up the revenue versus expense. That was a brilliant observation. Having said that, can I be clear that they will not ask for a tax abatement? And what would that be in, Michelle? That being a developer's agreement or a zoning condition? What is the appropriate place to put that in light of the comments?
It might be a better question for Mr. Denmark.
I would put it in a really short development agreement. I mean, they could agree to it as a condition of zoning, but then, conditions of zoning can be scrutinized differently, but in a development agreement, which would only cover that single item, is an arm's length agreement between the city and the developer. It's a matter of voluntary agreement and not the city imposing conditions. So it will be something that would be more difficult for the developer, not to say that they would, but it would be more difficult for them to say that, well, that those conditions were unreasonable. We don't necessarily agree. If it's in a development agreement, I mean, that by its very nature, there's mutual assent between the parties, otherwise they wouldn't have signed it.
So whoever makes the motion, you're suggesting that we put that in the motion, that in the development agreement, the developer will not ask for a tax abatement.
Mr. Marks?
Yes, ma'am.
We're putting you on the spot here a bit, but are you willing to make the representation that you'd be willing to have that as a part of a development agreement?
If you all decided to annex and rezone the property to a mixed use designation, we can make that commitment.
Let me ask you this: what are you trying to defer for tonight?
To be completely transparent, we knew as there were several amounts of correspondence going back and forth. We have partners in this development. We're the current owner, and we didn't. Friday afternoon, the school board reached out to try to set up a call for over the weekend. our partners were not available to have that phone call. And then if we were to have a phone call on Monday this afternoon, we did not feel as if there would be ample time to respond to any sort of concerns that may be brought up that we weren't previously made aware of. So we just did not want you all to have to make a decision in case there had been something that had been, there's already been 2 successive Fridays that have kind of created issue on this development. And so we were just trying to minimize, any sorts of other wrenches thrown in.
Mr. Mark, did I read the email correctly that our zoning and planning office did in fact speak with the school board and they have concerns? Did I read that? Michelle, did I read that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I did?
Yeah, so we spoke, we've had 2 meetings and a third phone call with the leadership of the Board of Education. They have not put their concerns in writing. They have talked about specifically the big concern is they focused on the income bracket and the impact that households of any lower or medium income bracket might have negative impacts on the schools. And they were asking for specific either donations or specific ways to mitigate that. And in response to that early on, the applicant indicated they didn't have a fixed amount of donation that they could make to a foundation per se. There wasn't any dollar amount discussed, but they did commit, as you see in the packet, to on-site programs, literacy, math, and programs where they would work with the schools. And they also offered to provide a donation of property. The superintendent indicated on the Saturday meeting that he would review that, but that they were not in favor just in general. So there was that conversation, but it's not in writing. And so we heard from the applicant they were requesting a deferral in case something more developed out of those.
So what the school board is saying that they're not in favor of it?
They were, well, so the superintendent indicated they were concerned and they're not in favor of having a large amount of low income units added to the school system. However, he asked and received the documentation about the range of incomes we were discussing. So I'm not sure how clear or how understood it was the range of households that were going to be coming. And it also, he also wanted to have something in writing, some sort of memorandum of agreement, something in writing about the agreement about what kind of programs would be provided on site for students who may be struggling. They also were concerned, so the other members we spoke to, which was the deputy superintendent, the head of construction, the head of government affairs, they said they weren't concerned necessarily. They just wanted us to be aware of all these issues, and they wanted to know if the applicant could be providing any sort of commitment back to the school board. However, they also clarified when they have gotten any kind of donations or when they have gotten, that is directly dollar donations into their foundation. These were with properties that had received tax abatement. So we had a long discussion. So there was 3 conversations about the fact that this applicant is not receiving any tax abatement, that there will be the full property taxes and revenue generating from the project. So that was the range of the discussion. It got complex, and I hadn't received anything in writing back to present to you all today from them.
Okay, did I read something where the school board was asking for a couple of apartments for their teachers?
So the superintendent mentioned that one of their projects, again, a project that receives property abatement, offered 2 units lease free for teachers. And would the applicant be willing to consider that? And I just said, that's a business model. And, you can always ask. And it sounded like a direct negotiation with the applicant. However, again, I don't know the degree to which there was an understanding about the quality of the product and that the range of income would be serving precisely our teachers, if they're $40,000 a year income salaries. So there was that request verbally, but I don't want to misrepresent. This was a phone conversation and we don't have this in writing. So I think that was part of the applicant's concern that we don't have it in writing and it hasn't been settled, and we don't want to misrepresent their concerns. And I don't hear them on the call tonight, the public hearing call.
And the last thing I will say to follow up on Ms. Alexander, this city and we as applicants gave proper notice to Clayton County and any other interested parties, and during the notice period did not receive any sort of correspondence.
So guys, from a practical standpoint, from a legislative standpoint, should we be approving anything tonight, or should we defer it until you're ready for us to go forward? Where are we on that? I mean, we can approve it tonight and approve both. And I can make a motion to do that, but it sounds like you're saying maybe we'd be better off waiting on that.
Well, let me interject here. There was a request for a deferral on, it was a parking garage, was it not? A couple of months ago, where the applicant requested a deferral, and I believe Councilman Allen, you led the charge on that we would not grant their deferral, and we went ahead and voted. So it's certainly within our rights to make that determination as to whether or not we grant the deferral.
Okay, well, I'll make the motion to, let's go ahead and annex the property. Let's see what happens.
Is there a second?
What was your motion, Councilman?
There's a motion to annex the property.
To annex the property with the condition that Councilman Gay had mentioned earlier, that we put in the development agreement that they would not receive tax abatement from the county or the state or whatever, and just the tax credits that they're talking about.
Would it be more appropriate to put, if we are considering the rezoning of it, to put that condition in that portion?
Or we can put it in the rezoning. That's fine too, if we're going to do both tonight.
What did Winston say? Oh yeah. What did
I
he
think
say?
it would be better in the development agreement to add those conditions. I did not speak to whether it should be part of the annexation or the rezoning, but if asked, I would say the rezoning.
Can it be in both? Can it be in both?
And the annexation is essentially this land, the landowner says, we want to be part of College Park. We say, okay. So that in and of itself isn't really tied to anything in terms of.
So, okay, I agree. So then let's please put it in the,
on the decision of rezoning.
And the rezoning.
And in the development agreement, because that's
Right.
when they go, that's further down the road.
We'll put it in the rezoning motion to include it in the development agreement. How's that?
That's fair.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So my motion is to go ahead and annex the property.
Okay.
Second on that.
All right. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Heard three. Okay. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, maybe Councilman Clay, you voted in favor?
Yes.
Councilman Allen, you were in
Yeah.
favor?
Yes, I second, yes.
Yeah. Councilman Gay, you're in favor?
Yes.
And Councilman Taylor?
Yes.
Okay, all right, I just missed one. Thank you. All right, that vote was unanimous. Okay,
Okay,
moving
now
on.
I'll make a motion to rezone the property
I think we
with the,
need to,
oops, I'm sorry.
I think we need to actually have a public, I need to declare that public hearing open on that issue. Is that correct, Mr. Denmark?
I thought we were decision only on the rezoning. Is that right, Michelle?
Oh, you're right. You're right.
I thought we had done the public hearing on that previously.
That's my thought, yes.
Okay, okay, all right. So,
And it has conditions in the staff report, which you may want to augment from what I understand your conversation just was.
okay, thank you very much.
I would love to have it in there that we get all the power and the water and the sewer, but
That's mostly a matter of state law, at least with the power on the Territorial Act. So we don't really have a lot of say on the power piece.
okay.
That's by statute.
But we do have a say on the water and the sewer if we could get it.
I thought that was going to be served by Clayton County. I thought we were clear about that. So I didn't think that was even an issue or conversation.
Before everybody says you want to grab the water and sewer, you need to ask the question, what condition is the water and sewer in? Because we have spent a lot of money over the last several years upgrading our water and sewer system in this city.
So, okay, so we would want to add the condition that the developer agree to no request for tax abatement in a development agreement.
Correct.
Okay, want to add that one. And in terms of utilities, Mr. Richardson is saying that is our area for electric, that the developer agrees to use College Park Power, if possible.
Yes.
And
Yes.
solid waste and trash.
Yes.
Because we're having that problem at Windsor Forest right now. So we can solid waste and trash.
Mr. Marks, is that amenable to you?
That is.
Okay. So developer agrees to use College Park Power, solid waste and trash services. Okay. Any other conditions?
Well,
Besides
there are the
ones
conditions that are recommended by the
yes, the ones that are
planning.
recommended these would be two new conditions added on to the
Right.
recommendations, the conditions the city planner added.
Right.
Okay. So is everybody good with those two? Okay,
Yeah.
your silence is going to be consent in that regard. So
I make
is
that
there-
motion.
Mayor?
Yes,
Are we
ma'am.
going to add water and
Linda.
sewer to that or not?
I don't think water and sewer is. Someone else is saying mayor. I'm
Yes,
sorry.
This is Linda.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to get a clarification from city planner. As I was doing previous minutes, it was discussed about the property at 5391 West Fayetteville, and I had put the 7 conditions from the planning commission into the minutes, but then it was mentioned from the city planner that there was 10. So if you could please maybe get a list of all the conditions and email them over to Shavella, and she may email them over to me.
Yes, they are in the staff report that is included in the packet. There are 10 that are included in the staff
Yeah,
report.
Linda, I have all that information in the packet, so I'm good with that.
Yeah.
It's all in the packet.
Sorry.
Okay, thanks, dear. You can forward that to me, Ms. Shavella?
It's available online like it always is.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
I'll
or
follow
we
up
could
with you, Linda.
we
Sorry
could
if I-
email her and make it easy.
Mayor, may I?
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, I just wondered if amenable to you all, and if it makes sense for the applicant as well, an additional condition related to a commitment of on-site programming, some agreement with the school board. The applicant put in their letter of intent and has committed to it, in their application, but we don't have it as a condition per se. And I think that was really something that the school board was really, really wanting to see. And it sounded like the applicant was willing to provide, if it makes sense for you all to add that.
I agree.
Any issues with that?
No.
Oh, that's
And-
fine.
Okay. Mr. Marks, any issues with that?
I don't know if that's part of the
Just-
agreement.
My only question would be, I would just like to understand exactly what the item is to be included.
Jill?
I'm thinking language to the effect of applicant agrees that the literacy and math or other after-school programs are provided in consultation with the Board of Education.
Okay, something like that, as long as there's not a way that entering into like an MOA or something in which it requires us getting signatures from another party could hold up like COs or something that could create an issue. So as long as it says like consultation or something like that, that would.
Right, and city planner's office would need to see demonstration of that consultation so that your programming actually occurs and is delivered. That was the concern. People promise things. How do we make sure they happen? So I think that would put some enforcement to it.
Okay.
You had said donation of 5 acres to the school, usable land to the school. Is that in there, or?
If I may, on this point, when I spoke to the superintendent and asked their opinion about that, they deferred. So we mentioned it to them and got nothing in response. And then when in writing, we discussed it. And then when we spoke to the superintendent on Saturday, there was a lukewarm response. So they, as in, land doesn't do us anything. It may cost us maintenance. So I wonder about having that as a potential, still as an option. But I don't think we can tie the school to it, frankly, because they.
No, I wouldn't tie the school to it, but I think Mr. Marks mentioned for trails and walking and this types of things. So.
Okay. So are we clear that we are adding 3 additional conditions? The first being that developer, I know, someone yawned. We're working through it. That the developer agrees to enter into a development agreement not to request any tax abatements for this project. Second, the developer agrees to use College Park Power, College Park Solid Waste and Trash Services, and also agrees to, in consultation with the Board of Education, for on-site services regarding literacy and math programs. I think that's about it.
I'm sorry, guys. I have one more. I just need to ask the body. I'm having a problem right now with an annexed property. Not fire, but police. Do College Park Police service this annexation, or is it Clayton County?
It would be us.
Be College Park.
That's part of what I was saying earlier about the cost of providing services.
Any other questions, Councilman Gay?
No.
Okay. All right. So give me one moment here to get back to where I need to be. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Councilman Allen to approve that rezoning. And any other discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
That sounds unanimous to me. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that is unanimous. Okay. Oh boy. All right, we've gotten past item 7.
Josh, you did a good job.
Thank you all. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it very much.
Appreciate you. All right, we are into the bids, change order requests, and contracts portion of the agenda. Item 8A is consideration of an action on a request for mayor and city council to ratify the emergency approval of a second funding request.
Mayor,
Yes,
I'm
sir.
having a technical problem with
Okay.
my computer. I'm going to have to make an adjustment. So go ahead. I'll join you in a minute.
All right. It's emergency approval of a second funding request for the daycare center grease trap replacement at the FAA regional headquarters located at 1701 Columbia Avenue. This is a project that Colliers International Commercial Property Manager Ron Wilkerson is recommending Leapley Construction to replace 25 feet of sewer lines in the amount of $91,815.
Is that part of the contract with the FAA?
It is not. This is not a budgeted item.
No, it's not budgeted, but is that part of the contract that we
Oh,
have?
our responsibility, you mean?
Yes.
Yes, I believe so.
Now, I asked several questions of city manager, and Mr. Wilkerson responded. And yes, I do trust you, Mr. Wilkerson, but it sure sounded surprising. So I'm good with it. We have to do it. Obviously, I just was annoyed by the fact that I would have thought that when we looked at the pipes, that it would be pretty obvious that the project was bigger than what was originally estimated. But it needs to be done. I'll move to approve it.
Is there a second?
A second.
Councilman Allen seconds. Any discussion?
Yeah, I think
All
we
those
need.
I'm sorry.
My question is, we keep having these with the FAA. We hopefully we ought to be setting some money aside for when these come up.
Agreed. I mean, I think we're in a situation where, we're just dealing with an aging building and things are going to keep on, the costs are going up. Mr. Moore?
Just to clarify, the City of College Park, via the Federal Aviation Administration, the United States General Services Administration, has established a Federal Aviation Administration Facility Reserve Fund that's actually in a couple millions of dollars and change. So we're able to financially cover these types of expenses, but at the same time yield interest to benefit the city financially.
Okay, so this is coming out of that.
Correct, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So Councilman Allen has seconded it. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Councilman Taylor, you are in favor?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I believe that is unanimous. Are there any votes against or any abstentions? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 8B, consideration of an action on a request for mayor and city council to ratify the approval of COVID-19 disinfecting services as a preventative measure for College Park City Hall. Mr. Moore has recommended Parker Young Construction, and I believe the work has already been done, correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am. And if I may, Madam Mayor and Council members, so her commitments are offered over the weekend relative to other municipal facilities, including the Public Safety Complex, as well as Fire Station 2, Fire Station 3, and also we're making arrangements to take care of the Police Precinct Substation on Godby Road. Both the fire stations as well as the Police Precinct Substation, I'll be executing those administratively because those are costs within my authority as city manager to execute. So as part of this consideration, I'd like to ask you all to approve an additional $18,000 to take care of expenses over at the Public Safety Complex as well in the context of this consideration. So this
So
is
that would be a total of $33,200?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, that's different than what you had put in initially, right?
Yes, sir, because we just negotiated this beginning over the weekend, Saturday, when matters were brought to our concerns. So we finalized those negotiations just this morning. And as I stated via electronic mail message to you, ladies and gentlemen, over the weekend, we were working to make a commitment to get this underway, which is actually getting started this evening as we speak.
So we obviously need to do this. I'll move to approve.
All right, is there a second?
A second.
Councilman Allen is seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
I think we need to look at public works too down there. If we're gonna look at all of, the police and fire, we probably need to take a look at that. Just, I know it's not a big facility, but
Good point.
Yes,
Good
sir.
point.
Point well taken. I'm sorry, I only heard 2 ayes. Can I get all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? It passes unanimously. Item 8C, consideration of an action on a request for approval to continue the sanitary sewer evaluation study of the city's sanitary sewer wastewater collection system. Director of Public Works, Mike Mason, is requesting approval of Prime Engineering and Materials and Engineering in the amount of $140,800. This is a budgeted item.
And this is a continuation of the existing contractual relationship we have. I think the important thing to notice on this is that not only are we approving the expenditure, but we are also saying that it's going to be stretched out over 2 years instead of, in other words, it'll be over fiscal 2021 and fiscal 2022. Is that correct, Mike?
Yes, sir, if you can hear me.
We can.
and you didn't use all the money in your budget, is that correct?
That is correct.
I think it's what, about $148,000 you're saving.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I just want to make one note. This is addition to the original scope of work that they've been conducting as far as the CCTV work and the cleaning and the manhole mapping that they've done thus far. To have them go out and actually bring in different type of equipment, try to locate those manholes that are buried so we can inspect them along with the sewer lines that connects them.
Mike, I just had one question. Last year, you told Mayor and Council that this study was coming to a close. Is this it?
No, sir. Like Councilman Clay just spoke on, is that we're not expending all the funds that we had budgeted this year. Therefore, we're just going to stretch the project out for possibly a couple more years. We're originally looking at wrapping up this project next year in the 2021 fiscal budget. Now we're probably looking at 2022.
The bottom line is we've got a revenue problem and we're trying to conserve expenditures that we just don't have to do right away.
Mr. Mason, in a very short snapshot, can you give the citizens an understanding of why this is important?
This is important because we had numerous deficiencies in our sanitary sewer line where College Park pays for their wastewater to be treated. And if we have breaches in the line, that will cause groundwater to infiltrate our sewer system, which means additional costs to residents. So that's one reason why we've done this project, in addition to make sure that we don't have any blockage from either things that flow down the line, tree roots, anything of that nature. We would be able to identify it and make the necessary repairs so that we do have a free-flowing wastewater collection system.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Councilman Taylor is seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Item 8D is consideration of an action on a request for approval to purchase software enabling citizens and staff to report concerns anywhere within the city of College Park. Mr. Hicks has recommended approval of citizen response software from QSend Technologies at the cost of $27,100. This is a budgeted item.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right.
Discussion.
All right.
I had a dialogue back and forth with Mr. Hicks, and I believe that what we would be approving for what is in here is the vanilla off-the-shelf app that you can download off the web, right? Mr. Hicks? Michael, unmute your phone, please.
Yes, and if you look in the package, there's customization for the app to how we want to brand it and how we want to roll it out.
Okay, so what is the cost? Are you saying we need to do the customization? Is that correct?
Yes, yes. I think we need our logo, we need our customization, we need the College Park brand on it.
Okay, is that in the cost quote that you have?
Yes, sir. Willis Moody and I, we had a conversation with QC, and as a matter of fact, one of their spokesmen is in the attendee portal now. But Willis and I, we talked with them. We got all of the prices, and we put it in Minitrack.
So is the cost to the city then $27,100, including all the customization?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm good.
All right. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that motion passes unanimously. We're on to 8E, consideration of and action on a request for approval of a maintenance lease agreement to provide hardware support for Dell services.
I move to
servers.
approve.
Is there a second?
A second.
All right. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that passes unanimously. Item 9A is consideration of and action on a request to approve a resolution ordinance to earn a certified city of ethics designation with the Georgia Municipal Association.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. 10A, new business. Consideration of and action on a request to adopt a resolution authorizing the Aerotropolis CID to apply for a roadside enhancement and beautification council grant from the Georgia Department of Transportation for Riverdale Road landscaping and design funding.
I move to approve. It's a no-brainer.
There's no money involved for us. So,
Second.
all right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? All right. So we are on to the city attorney's report.
May I have a question?
Oh, I'm sorry. Someone has a question.
A question on the previous action.
I apologize, Councilman Gay. Please forgive me.
Can you just please clarify where on Riverdale Road?
Mr. McDowell?
I don't have the rendering with me, but I can have that email to you tomorrow.
Because only reason why I said that is because Riverdale Road only is right up past Cisco's. Is it to Herschel, to the interstate?
There are actually two locations.
One is Sullivan Road.
Sullivan.
Sullivan Road, and the other is Terminal Parkway, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, that's correct.
So can it possibly go the length of Riverdale down to where it ends at Herschel?
I have to double check on that, but so there are two locations, and the two locations I believe will cover that distance. But I would have that email to you tomorrow.
Yeah, one of the locations you're doing 3 sides of the corners of the intersection, and the other location you're just doing the one on the airport side.
That sounds correct. You have better information than I do in front of me.
And I zoomed in on it. It makes sense where you're doing it.
No, I agree. It makes sense. My question is, can we get something done where Riverdale starts? Is what I'm asking.
Oh, something additional.
Riverdale starts at Herschel. Can that land? I mean, that's where you have a population of people. Can that be enhanced?
Let me get with you tomorrow and see if it covers that area.
He just said it don't. I'm asking, can you discuss it as being amended?
Let me follow up with you tomorrow. The quotes that we receive are on the areas that we are covering, but let me see if we can include the area that you're inquiring about. And I'll get that to you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilman Gabe, please forgive me for plowing ahead there. I did not mean
no problem.
No problem. Off there. All right. Item 11. Are we? Yes, the city attorney's report.
I have nothing this evening, Madam Mayor.
All right. Item 12A, city manager, or 12 is the city manager's report.
Other than the rudimentary top 10 delinquent property taxpayers report and that for delinquent utility customers, I have nothing further. However, staff is in position to address any specific questions or concerns you have regarding either of those matters.
Thank you, Mr. Moore.
I
Any
have
questions regarding
concerns.
12A or 12B?
I have concerns on 12B, Madam Mayor.
All right. Does anyone have any concerns on 12A? Hearing none, we'll move to 12B.
On 12B, we had asked last meeting, I believe, to get some information on where we stood with the delinquencies on utility payments. And I got some preliminary information the other day from the Althea. And we are right now, as of April 17, over $600,000 in arrears on utility payments. That should give everybody an idea of the concern that I've been expressing about what's going to happen with utilities along with other things. Looking through the list, there are businesses on there. It's not primarily residential. That's the issue. I mean, there are a lot of residential on there, but they're small amounts, relatively speaking, $300-400. But we've got a number of businesses and other entities that are significantly larger. And I'd like to make an appeal to the council. I have a suggestion. At the end of the emergency, we're going to want to collect our arrears. And people are going to be in a difficult position to pay those arrears. And so then we're going to have the issue of, well, are you going to cut all these people off? Are you going to cut off these businesses? And an idea occurred to me today, and I'd like the council to think about it and hopefully have staff look at it. What I'd like to do is, when we come to the point where we have to deal with this, because we're going to be hurting on revenue, it's clearly showing up now, that we today appeal to people to reduce your consumption. Let me give you an example. We have hotels on there that owe $18,000, $20,000. What I would suggest is, if the hotel is empty, and we know they're down to, say, 15, 20% rental, conserve your utilities. Why are you burning the power and air conditioning the whole building, et cetera, et cetera? For residences, you can conserve water. I've done it myself over the last couple months as an experiment. I've been trying to conserve water, and I've gone down from 3 to 4 kilogallons to 2 to 1 kilogallon. Admittedly, I take a lot of long showers, but the thing is, I would say that if people want forbearance on being cut off, they should demonstrate that they are conserving too. In other words, the city has to pay its bills too. We're all in this together. We need to conserve. The residents need to conserve. And then hopefully you, Richardson, can sell electricity on the spot market. And as far as water goes, we buy our water from other sources, considerable. Most of it comes from other sources as opposed to our wells. Our wells only are providing, I think, about 1/6 of our water usage right now, something like that, maybe less than that. So if everybody uses less water, we have to buy less water. Your utility bill will less. And this is a show of good faith that you are also trying to economize and lower the cost to the city. So that's what I'd like to council to think about. I don't want to go through these things in detail, but we need a program of conservation that applies to all the citizens as well as the city. That's my speech.
And we need to get money starting to come in.
And yeah, that was the other speech. We need a revenue, a grant getting team that I gave the other day, I guess at the budget meeting. Yes, right.
We're working on that, sir.
So what is it? What do people think about what's wrong with asking people to run their air conditioner a little higher? Although we haven't needed air conditioning the last couple of days, run the temperature a little higher, and demonstrate that they cut their power usage by 30–40%, let's say. And okay, well, we'll meet you part way.
I think the challenge with that would be, I think overall, I think it's a good message to send, and we should perhaps encourage people to find ways or find devices that will help them monitor that a little bit closer, and point them in the right direction. My concern would be for those who are in situations where they can't necessarily decrease their consumption of power, like they've got medical devices or things along of that nature, where you don't show us that you're doing your part. And it's not just I've left the lights on. It's more that this is a necessity for any particular reason, and sort of parsing that apart for each individual seems to me a little bit cumbersome.
Well, sooner or later, we're going to be cutting services and we're going to be raising taxes, because that's the only way we're going to be able to pay for it.
That's exactly.
So if people want their taxes raised and their services reduced, then they can go along and not change anything. But if we're going to all work together on this to come out in the best economic situation, it is possible now to monitor your water consumption and your electricity consumption on a daily basis. Is that not correct, you Richardson?
You?
Well,
come on in.
Let me say that it is possible for most people to go on the web and see their daily usage of electricity and water. You can do it.
Councilman Clay, may I make a comment? It doesn't hurt to start a campaign of conservation. I mean, it doesn't hurt to lower your carbon footprint. But I also spoke to Mr. Hugh because MEAC is a nonprofit, to look at what, if any, relief will be coming from the federal government with the MEAC cities. So he's looking at that could be some relief there.
I totally agree. That's part of the grant getting assistance any way we can. We need to be, that's an excellent idea. We should be doing that in every area where we can get assistance. And we need to do it quicker and faster to get the assistance before we have to take other actions that we don't want to take and won't want to take.
And the money's gone.
And the money's gone. If you cut early or you cut deeper. Trust me, I've been there. That's all.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. So our next item is report of mayor and council. Councilman Clay, I'll start with you.
Okay. I had a request that I got from McLaren. They, it's a tough time for all the schools. The graduating classes aren't having physical graduations. McLaren asked if we would be willing to put on our LED display out in front of City Hall the pictures of the graduates this year. And that would be from May 15th to May 20th. So we're not talking a long time. I know we have a policy against not putting nonprofits on there or businesses on there. This is neither of those. And those kids work really, really hard to come back and graduate from that school. And I would like to appeal to the council that we support that. They've also asked if they could put the pictures of students on some signs, you know, like campaign signs, only put on signs along the front of the school. I don't have a problem with that either. I don't think we would have a problem with that. But that's what I'd like. That's the item I'd like to bring before council tonight.
I don't have a problem. I have a question. Would you be opposed that if Banneker and Tri-City could also post their senior class if they want?
If they had a display in front of the school, then they would be putting it on their display in front of McLaren. Banneker and Tri-Cities aren't anywhere near the location of our display, so I don't know how.
I agree, but for the record, Banneker, particularly Banneker and Tri-City, is where our seniors go, not necessarily McLaren.
No, I understand that. How many are in the graduating class typically at Banneker?
And a lot.
Well, there's a limit. There's a capacity limitation. McLaren, I think, probably will have, I don't know the exact number, but I'm guessing it's around 50, maybe 60 graduates. If you're talking, and we could easily do that on our LED display, but their graduation may be at a different time too. I'm not against the idea. I just don't know whether we can accommodate both.
What about the valedictorian and salutatorian?
The valedictorian
of those two different schools.
I don't have an issue with putting any schools on there. It's a capacity issue. And I know that McLaren doesn't have that many graduates, so we could get it done easily.
Why don't we do this? I mean, I don't want to get too far in the minutia, but if we are in, I think everyone's in agreement that, especially given these the current circumstances, we want to find a way to recognize these hardworking students. And why don't we task our director of communications to work with each school if they request to go ahead and make appropriate accommodations on the city LED sign out front.
I'm okay with that.
Don't forget Woodward.
Okay, like if I agree. I think what we all agree, we want recognition, and if they want to use our board for that, given this, we all agree, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. All right, so they'll work with the director of communications on making that happen. Perfect.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Oh, okay. Councilman Taylor?
I don't have anything.
Okay. Councilman Allen?
I just think we ought to thank all of our employees that are out on the front lines. They just need all the thanks we can give them. I want to thank all the people in the city, like Woodward, have been preparing some lunches for some of the senior people and some of the other areas, and the event they had this past weekend with the Hawks and State Farm and the other folks that were involved. You know, they're doing a good job bringing a lot of food into the city, and everybody that's helped out, we need to appreciate it. We just need to keep thanking those people. The only thing other thing I had is we're seeing a lot of police accidents, and I don't know, Chief, are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Okay, I just didn't know, some of these minor accidents, are we keeping, they're not happening to the same people over and over again, are they?
No, two of the accidents we had were in the apprehension of that murder suspect.
Yeah, that's not the ones. I'm just talking about the.
We had 2 vehicles in that one incident. And the others, I don't recall right offhand, but they're all gonna be reviewed by our accident board, and if disciplinary action is needed, we'll deal with that.
I'm just talking about the very minor ones, that are not chasing criminals and so forth.
Yes,
That's
those are just oversights on driver's parts.
okay. I just didn't know if it was happening to the same people over and over again.
No, sir, it's not.
Okay.
And if it were, the discipline piece gets a little more severe for each
Okay.
occurrence.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Councilman Gay?
I don't have anything. I only have one comment regarding the mayor, not the mayor, but the governor starting to relax the restrictions. I just want us to start being prepared to have that conversation.
Mm-hmm. And as I think we I'm on the advisory committee, and we're meeting on Wednesday morning to discuss how this rolls out, and I will make sure to relay that to the group to ensure that we are communicating as best as possible. And I know Councilman Gay, is that it for you?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I know that one of the issues that I'd floated individually to each one of you was reopening the golf course. And you were decidedly split on that. And so, and I don't mean to put Ms. Johnson on the spot, but she is unmuted because I think that they had talked about having some measures in place to encourage social distancing, and I know that there were some questions that you had, so that has been on hold. So, Ms. Johnson, are you prepared? I apologize for not discussing this with you beforehand, but are you do you have the ability to discuss that now?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much. So if you could just sort of highlight where things are with the golf course. I know there were repairs taking place last weekend, but where things are now, and especially in light of the governor reopening some things by the end of the week, where the golf course would like to be.
Right. So we've been discussing back and forth that reservations would be made online. Tee times would be, I think they were 15 minutes apart. There was, we call it a marshal for the golf course to let them on. One person to cart. There's 30 carts available. And then raising the ball, the cup for the ball so that they wouldn't have to reach inside. And so, based on what you guys would like to do and feel comfortable moving forward, they would like to reopen the golf course.
And what is the advantage economically in opening the golf course? I realize there are an advantage to people who would like to play golf on the golf course, but what are your personnel costs going to be? And how will you enforce social distancing on the far holes of the golf course? And do you need extra personnel for that? And will the cost of that be up?
No, so they've been working at the golf course with have had the remediation and construction going on. So most staff's been out there working, so the cost won't change with that. Of course, income coming in would be, revenues would be good for the golf course. Everybody has been compliant. I think Ed felt comfortable that they would be able to handle the social distancing, no more than 4 going, at a time, on a tee, but it would still be one person per cart, and then marshaling as they enter in. I think there was a concern if somebody didn't meet their tee time, they'd only be waiting 15 minutes to step back in.
So how many people will it take to run the golf course during the day?
It's the normal crew. I don't think there's more than 3 that are out there. Ed's out there with Epiphany, and then Ebony works inside the office. But we were trying to keep everybody out of the clubhouse. The clubhouse wouldn't be open.
Okay, so you're gonna lose the revenue from the clubhouse. You're gonna keep the same number of staff in place that you got,
Correct.
And because of the social distancing limitation, you're going to only be opening the golf course for a handful of people.
Correct, as long as they're moving on from one tee to another.
So from an economic standpoint, your revenue versus expenses are going to be poor compared to what you would have if you were operating normally. Is that correct?
It will be limited based on the number of people coming in, correct.
So why do we want to do this?
I think based on our conversations with Ed, we were pretty much the only golf course that was not up and going. So that was, wanting to get it up and going with the rest of the golf.
And
yeah,
maybe we're the only smart one.
And it's extremely possible. Yes.
Okay, maybe I'm biased because I'm not a golfer, although I have played golf, but it seems to me to be doing something that is only going to benefit a handful of people at extra cost at this time is not a wise move.
I guess I'm a little unclear about, these employees are being paid, are they not?
Correct.
So in terms of extra cost, what are we experiencing in cost?
So we're not paying additional people. You're not adding to the crew in order to improve the wipe downs or what have you.
No, it would be the same staff that's normally out there.
So you're saying you're getting revenue you already got the cost because we're paying people even though we don't need them.
Well, no, they're still out there. They've had work going on out there, even though the golf course has been closed.
Okay, well, that makes sense then.
Yeah.
I just hope we can enforce the social distancing.
Anyone else have any questions or any thoughts about it?
No, I thought it was a good idea as long as they didn't back up, when they come around the first 9 and they start backing up with the other people teeing off. We just need to make sure we have a marshal out there to make sure that they're social distancing, because that's where they're going to social distance on. That's where they're going to gather is on most of the tees, especially number 1.
Does it make sense? I'm sorry. Does it make sense perhaps to start at a 30-minute increment and then see how that goes and then whittle down to 15?
I'm sure we can make that recommendation. Absolutely. If that's what you guys would like for us to do.
And then see how it goes, and then
yeah, and then it's gradually increase. It seems like that's where everyone is going in terms of starting incrementally on that road to normal, and perhaps a 30-minute spacing between them would make sense. Councilman Clay, what do you think?
Well, if we're going to do it, I think 30 minutes would be better than 15, and see how we can control it. And if we don't have to add staff, if you don't have to have someone's out amongst the green and the holes to enforce it, then why not give it a try? It's better that get some revenue than no revenue, as long as we can keep people safe.
Right.
Councilman Gay? Do you have any thoughts?
You're muted, Councilman Gay. You're muted.
It's whatever the group wants. I'm okay with it, as long as they practice social distance.
Okay. And Councilman Taylor?
I feel the same. I think we should keep it closed. You ask me. I don't think that we're gonna be able to sanitize those carts the proper way. They don't have enough people to do that, and there's no way we can definitely make these people do social distance. I think that we should wait. I don't see why it's so important to open it, but if that's what you guys want to happen, I guess that's gonna happen. I don't think we're keeping people safe properly.
Okay. All right. I'm hearing 2 that are good and 2 that are a little on the fence there and have concerns. I think that if we start with the 30-minute spacing between the tee times, and see how that goes, and we get a report back from you, Ms. Johnson, then, and just let us know how it's going out there, we can move accordingly.
Okay.
All right. Piggybacking on Councilman Allen, I just want to continue to express my gratitude to not only the folks who are coming from outside of our city to assist, including State Farm, Gooder, the Atlanta Hawks, and of course our own College Park Skyhawks, who all gathered together for a pop-up grocery event on Saturday. But also want to express my gratitude to everyone who is doing extra in this climate to ensure that our neighbors are being taken care of. This is a difficult time, and we all have a number of stressors, but one of the real bright spots for me in this whole experience has been seeing how this community has come together. And I truly appreciate what everyone has done to make this unpleasant situation a little bit easier to handle. And I think it really speaks to who we are as a community and just the strength of and the wonderful nature of College Park. So having said that, I believe we need to enter into a brief executive session. We will return to this meeting to approve the executive session minutes at the very least. But gentlemen, I have sent you an invitation to the executive session meeting. Give me about 2 minutes to get that done, but I do need a motion to enter into executive session.
I so moved to enter into executive session for real estate litigation and personnel.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. So we are about to enter into executive session, and thank you very much. So gentlemen, I'm sorry.
How about a 5-minute break?
5-minute break we can do, and that'll give me an opportunity to set up this next meeting. So we will enter at 10. Why don't I give you a 6-minute break since it's 10:09?
10:15.
10:15. Okay.
Okay.
All right,
Madam
Mr.
Mayor,
Hicks.
you want me to leave this session up?
Yes, because we do need to come back to the executive session minutes, and if there's any action we need to
Okay.
Also do that out of executive session.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.